Hey guys, and welcome to Little Blackbird 91. We're talking to you guys today about how men deal with pressure and stress in 2023. I mean, the title's triggering, but I'll be honest with you, that's not the title. That's not all about today. Really and truly is about the men. I ain't gonna play with you. I'll put the title there so we can get some more people into the show. I'm gonna be honest with you. Okay, so today we'll talk to you guys about how do men deal with pressure and stress in 2023. And the reason why I wanted to do this topic is because we did a video on Put a Ring on It the other day, right? And we were talking about Dunbar and Chant's situation. And we saw Dunbar on Put a Ring in It. We saw him breaking down. We saw him talking about the things that he had faced in his childhood, right? And what I found so interesting about Dunbar's breakdown in his childhood was that, he had faced some abuse in terms of his father, beating on his mom and seeing, horrible things, and home no longer was safe. And then we made some deductions that, football became that safe haven. It becomes that place where you can eradicate or at least forget about some of the stresses of life. Let me be very frank and very honest with you. I think men, we do need to talk about some things like this. I think we need to talk about some real issues when it comes to our mental health. Not mental illness, but mental health. Yeah. How is your mental? And because we go through quite a bit in life, and I think this is a great topic to talk about. How do we deal with pressure? How do we deal with stress? How do we deal with those particular aspects? How do we handle that, as well? And I think this is important to talk about, especially what we've been seeing on the internet quite recently. I think you're always seeing wars between men and women, and seeing things go right and left, and people are seeing all sorts of madness. I think it's a great time to talk about, how do we handle pressure? How do we handle stress? That being said, listen, if you're new to the channel, make sure you like, you share, you subscribe, you click on that bell button for notification of the uploads. And for those of you who are returnees, you already know what it is, baby. You got the minerals. All right, listen, look, I ain't gonna waste much time. I'm gonna get into something because I wanted to show you a video, and I thought it was so powerful. So we're gonna take a few minutes just to watch it. Because it does speak to what I wanted to talk about as well. So how men and women handle stress differently. Let's have a real conversation. Okay, I'm going to bring this on.
And as hard as it may be for you to imagine he was clueless to the accused, he may be telling the truth. It has a lot to do with how men and women handle stress differently. To understand these differences, we have to first examine the initial purpose of stress. Whatever benefit stress would once have offered has mostly disappeared. Primitive man relied on his body's systems to gear up for flight or fight. When he was threatened, his adrenal system started pumping furiously, and he used every bit of the magical substance to save his hide. 3 stress hormones are involved in the flight or fight syndrome: cortisol, epinephrine, and oxytocin. Cortisol and epinephrine lower immunities and raise blood pressure. Oxytocin softens the reaction of cortisol and epinephrine by relaxing the emotions. Men release less oxytocin than women, and therefore have a stronger reaction from both cortisol and epinephrine. Because of the increase of oxytocin and the reproductive hormones, such as estrogen, women are tenderized to nurture and reach out to others in an effort to both protect themselves and their young. Women are about relationships. In fact, their self-esteem and identity are often dependent upon their feelings of adequacy in relationships. Men, on the other hand, are wired to be problem solvers. They compartmentalize and repress their emotions to either fight or run away. Males are invested in performance and competition. They instinctively don't pick up many social cues and innately view eye contact as a challenge. Women pick up 6 facial cues compared to a male's ability to pick up 1, and women experience eye contact as a sign of intimacy.
All right, cool. I want to pause at this just really quickly. Sorry about the sound there, because old sis wanted to whisper into into oblivion. She said you gonna get this whisper song. So she didn't want to give us any volume on that, and that's the top volume. But she said some really powerful things there. So I want to bring it back real quickly. And the reason why I said I want to talk about this again is because we're always talking about relationships in this place, and we talk about how other people, how in relationships we're always looking at the other person rather than looking at ourselves. And this, what she begins to describe and break down, is a difference between men and women and how we deal with stress. And so I want to quickly scoot back over what she just kind of said real quickly. Hope you guys are able to hear it again.
Women are about relationships.
Okay, let me scoot back a little bit better. There we go. Just say it again.
Cortisol and epinephrine by relaxing the emotions. Men release less oxytocin than women, and therefore have a stronger reaction from both cortisol and epinephrine. Because of the increase of oxytocin and the reproductive hormones, such as estrogen, women are tenderized to nurture and reach out to others in an effort to both protect themselves and their young. Women are about relationships. In fact, their self-esteem and identity are often dependent upon their feelings of adequacy in relationships. Men, on the other hand, are wired to be problem solvers. They compartmentalize and repress their emotions to either fight or run away. Males are invested in performance and competition. They instinctively don't pick up many social cues and innately view eye contact as a challenge. Women pick up.
Okay, so if you didn't hear it, I'm going to break it a little bit down, what she kind of said, just so we can make an understanding as well, because I think this is really powerful stuff. When she was saying it, I was like, oh, okay. This is important in terms of how we relate to one another as well. Okay, so she spoke about some of the things that make both men and women feel validated, right? Or feel a sense of self-esteem. Focusing on the men, and actually I'll put the link in the chat as well if you do want to listen to this on your own as well. I know the volume is a bit low as well, so that makes sense. I'll put it in the chat. That's the link for the actual video as well, so if you want to watch the video. But she speaks quite eloquently about how, as men, what makes us feel validated, makes us feel confident, makes us feel good, what relieves, I guess, what validates us, what builds up our self-esteem in a sense. She spoke about how we problem solve, how we compartmentalize our emotions to deal with stresses and threats. We seek to be validated by our performance and competition. All right. And we typically pick up one social cue versus women picking up 6 social cues. Now, why is this important? I think this is the first part of the conversation when we're talking about dealing with pressure and dealing with stress, because we are in a society now where there's no dinosaurs. Okay. All right. Hardly are we killed now, not all the time, for our race or our skin tone in that sense. For those of us in the West, we are dealing with less physical threats. So we now have more opportunity to spend time on building our emotional bank and our emotional intelligence as well. And just listening to Put a Ring It yesterday and listening to Dunbar speak about what he had gone through, he did exactly what this young lady, this lady had just said men tend to do, right? There was a stress problem. There was an issue that he suffered in his youth when he saw his mother being abused by his stepdad, right? But what it does for him is that instead of emoting, instead of going into the emotions, instead of dealing with the emotions on a level that becomes healthy, men tend to compartmentalize in order to survive. So we don't go into our emotions to survive per se. We compartmentalize. And I think this is really important. Now, listening to Dunbar as well, I kind of spoke to Dunbar last night as well. I won't go into any particular detail in terms of what we spoke about. But one of the things he spoke about is something that he validated what I said on the panel, which was oftentimes men use sports as a way of evading dealing with their emotions. Now, why am I talking about this? Because when we talk about the stress that one feels or stress that one is under, we're always looking for a way to relieve ourselves of the stress. Otherwise, the body and the mind can snap and break, right? Oftentimes what men use is their ability to compete as a way of eradicating the stress of life, right? So for instance, we're talking about sports, we're talking about let me keep it there. We're talking about sports, being competitive in business, being competitive in arts and craft and stuff like that. You'll find that men tend to get competitive in those spaces because it's a way that, one, we feel validated because we want to conquer, we want to beat, we want to win, and we get a lot of validation and esteem from this. This is how men are wired. Okay, this is how men are wired. So if you are a man, and it's so funny, I was listening to a book called 80-20 Principle, and one of the things he said was, are you running in the right race? And I was like, what does he mean by, like, are you running in the right race? And what he was explaining was, like, if you can be in the, and I felt like he was kind of evading the competition aspect, but he said, you're not running away from the competition. You just need to run the right race. See, if you keep running in races that you keep losing in, you're gonna end up you're gonna end up depressed. You know what I mean? And what he was saying was that switch the race. Sometimes you're in a race that you're not qualified for. Switch the race. And I was like, what's that got to do with the like surely that that doesn't necessarily that doesn't necessarily solve the issue. But then as I start kind of let it play in my mind, and as I did a bit more research around stress and performance and stuff like that, I started realizing that even in sports there are tiers to leagues. So there's not one league, there's usually several leagues underneath. Even in, let's say, NBA, you have NBA, but then you have college basketball, or you have Europe basketball as well. You have different leagues, and someone might not make it in the NBA, but they might make it in Europe, right? Someone might not make it in NFL, but they might make it in sevens. Do you get what I'm saying? And what he was saying was that men need to run a race. You need to run a race. Are you in the right race? So maybe you could be a sprinter, and maybe sprinting isn't necessarily your thing, but maybe you're a better coach than you are a sprinter. That's the race you need to be running. Men need to figure out what race they're running because you need to be competitive. It's a form of validation. I was like, blood. It gets me thinking, right? So the focus for a lot of us times as men is around performance. We want to perform. We want to perform at the best that we can, right? And we want to be the best that we can be because this speaks to us in nature form as men. It validates us. So it makes so much sense that you see a lot of people who come from very dysfunctional homes finding themselves in very competitive sports arenas because the sports allows them to evade the stress aspect when it comes to emotions and allows the stress to be more of a physical exertion, which is fine. Because on that one, you're not focused on you're not necessarily focused on something that you couldn't control. In the sense of, when I say can't control, let's say your family dynamic is washed up. You can't choose new parents. Do you see what I'm saying? You can't choose new siblings. You can't choose a whole new family. What you can do in sports is I can build my body. I can train my body to the highest hill. I can make my body a machine. And what that allows me to do is to have some level of control and some level of influence over my environment. It allows me then to tap into the competitive part to relieve myself of some of this stress. Like, you're probably wondering why I'm talking about all of this. Because I'm trying to figure out what's happened to. I'm looking at the manosphere. I look at I look at manosphere. I look at different spaces when it comes to on the internet at the moment, and I'm asking myself, okay, what is the big deal with men in 2023? What are they facing? And what I realize is listen, and when I say this, I want to take it away from some of the context, because sometimes women talk about competing. Men need to compete, but they don't know what it should be defined as. So I'll say it broadly and then kind of make it more specific. Men need to compete, and not to please women, not to satisfy women or to make them happy. Men need to compete in order for them to actually thrive. They need competition. The moment that you don't have competition and the moment that you find yourself no longer competing against others is the moment the blade becomes dull. And when the blade becomes dull, the person begins to look inwardly, and starts to, how do I say? Well, as the lady was saying, as a man, we get our esteem from that. So when you're competing, your esteem is being built up, yes, but unfortunately conquering others. Now, conquering does not mean I have to see you die. It just means I need to beat you. Okay, I need to win. I need to be able to win some battles. I need to win some wars. I need to be able to exert that. I need to be able to live in that a little bit. Now I'm kind of taking it to its highest hill in a sense. You may compete in business. Even on YouTube, I'm competing. Okay. Even in YouTube, I'm competing. There is some, I don't like it. I hate competition in that way. If you ever see me, I don't like competing on this kind of stuff. I don't like to come try and compete with somebody because I feel like I'm my own person. But in reality, we do compete. In reality, we do compete. Right? So, this is such an important factor for men in terms of relieving the stress. Right? In terms of relieving the stress. Right? I'm gonna play her let her play a little bit more, and then we'll talk a bit more as well. And I'll come back round in terms of what I'm talking about.
6 facial cues compared to a male's ability to pick up 1, and women experience eye contact as a sign of intimacy. Men let competitors' accomplishments and employers' ambitions establish demand ranges, inhibiting self-attention and directing it towards winning. Thus, for a woman, the worst stress is a threat to her relationship. And for a man, it is the inability to perform, compete, and achieve.
Okay, so because I'm not focused on the women, I'll miss out the women in this video. So what she said was, okay, the stress that men feel is the inability to perform, the inability to compete and to achieve. Now, this is also a big factor in the reason why men and women in this 2023 are having so much issues, right? This is why there's so much issues at the moment in 2023, especially within the Black community. Men need to what? Compete. They need to be able to achieve. I can't remember the third one she just said as well, but and achieve. And the third one I can't remember. I'll go back and listen to it quickly because it was powerful. I just want to if I ever get it, I'll write it down too.
Thus, for a woman, the worst stress is a threat to her relationship. And for a man, it is the inability to perform, compete, and achieve. Mm-hmm. Women will often sacrifice their own needs for the needs of others.
Okay, so she's talking some good things about the women too. I ain't gonna lie to you. Listen, I'll do a video for the women as well because she's talking some real stuff. So she said about men compete, achieve. I don't know why, and perform. I don't know why the word was going up my head. Okay, so the worst stress for men. Remember, I did a video. We did a video for men's panel the other week, right? We spoke about the fact that for men, one of the most, one of the most difficult things for men, in a sense, is the fact that when it comes to provision, and we had some women say, we also provide too, like we are also providers, sole providers for our family too. And I said that the two are not the same. Okay, because the factors that cause stress are not the same, right? They're not the same because socially, the way we're engineered and also biologically, the way that we're wired, they're not the same. So even though we are facing the same threat and you will face some stress when it comes to quote unquote, let's say you're a sole provider in your home as a woman and I'm a sole provider as a man in my home, or we are dualistic providers in our homes. What affects you? It's not what's affecting me. As a man, what's affecting me is performance, competition, and achievement. And this is why it becomes very difficult when your woman earns considerably more, because you end up getting into competition with your partner. Your achievements don't seem like achievements when you put it up against your partner, because men are naturally competitive, right? So it can be very difficult. One has to look beyond themselves and search a little bit deeper if they want to do it. So for men, there's stress, but the stress parts that cause them that cause issues within them is the ability to perform, achieve, and compete. We are competing. Even on YouTube, I am competing. I'm competing oftentimes against myself, against other YouTubers. I'm competing against what my visions and goals are. You know what I mean? And it causes me stress. It causes me stress. You know, I'm not going to complain about it, but it causes me stress. You know what I mean? I'm not going to complain about it, but it causes me stress. You know what I'm saying? And achievements, when I hit new ranks, let's say, for instance, we're on 70K right now. I've been on 70K for a little bit and I've been on to myself, what the hell is going on? Lord, what's going on? I've been trying to figure it out. My YouTube was actually, do you know what was happening to me? In the last 3 months, my YouTube subscribers was actually going backwards. I started looking, I was like, what the hell? I'm actually losing subscribers. I was actually losing subscribers by a lot. And I was like, wait, what the hell is going on here? And I sat down, I had to think about it, and I had to problem solve. Because one of the things that men tend to do is problem solve and compartmentalize emotions. And I'm going to talk about this because it's really important as well. It got me thinking about some things, right? So I started thinking about those aspects for men in general. All right. We want to perform, we want to achieve, and we want to compete. If we're not doing those things, we're going to suffer. And when we're not doing those things and we're focused on other things, we fail to live in our appropriate, I believe, calling and role. Yeah. You get what I'm saying to you? Yeah. We're still, do you get what I'm saying to you? We're still trying to get in our particular role. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So for men specifically, when they don't have those factors, we are now on the internet fighting with women. Because part of our role is part of our role is now in compete, achieve, and perform. But here's the thing. If you're now in competition with women, and the reality is we are now in competition with women. There's some aspect that we are actually in competition with women, right? Because when you go into the workspace, you're not competing against men anymore. I know women don't want to say it and they don't want to believe it, but the reality is when we go into a workspace, we are now competing against one another. We are, right? We're now in that space in 2023. Of course, it's been for a long time anyway, but we're now in that space where we're now really competing against one another. And attached to the competition part and the performance and the achievements is the ego. So now in the workplace between men and women, we're now competing in that space. But did you hear what this woman said? The woman also said something really interesting. She said that what validates women, though, what kind of props them up, what causes them stress isn't the money aspect. It's not the finance. Sorry, I shouldn't say money. It's not the performance. It's not the achievements. It's not the competition. That's not what majorly gives her stress. That doesn't mean it doesn't give her stress. That doesn't mean it doesn't give her stress. What gives her stress is the relationship. Right? That's what gives her major stress. That doesn't mean that they don't stress at all, by the way. We're not saying they don't stress at all. Do you get what I'm saying? We're not saying women don't stress at all. They do stress. What we're saying is what gives them major stress, as a woman was pointing out, is relationship. So I'm sure there are women that are going to be exceptions to that rule. I agree. So if you are an exception, we appreciate you. Okay. We know that some of you are an exception. Relationship is not your stress. It is performance, achieve, and compete. Okay. I know some of you are an exception. So I'm not trying to punch everybody into the same bunch. But again, it just explains a little bit more as to what's going on in our generation at the moment. So if those stress factors are happening, we've actually got more competition coming in now. Right? We've actually got more competition coming in. So when women join in the same spaces that we're now constantly in, there is more competition. There's more. So now you're not just competing against men, you're competing against women too. And actually, women are the ones that we're trying to even be in relationship with, but we're now competing against them. right? And you know what, Jennifer, this is a good point. So let me tell you something that happened to me. When I came back from Ghana, the YouTube just wasn't picking up the way it wanted to pick up. And I remember I had some other bills that needed to come out and get paid. Yeah. And when that happens to me, when finances start to go a little bit higgy hagger, yeah, I drill in with work. This is why when I watched this video, I said, oh my days, I get it. And I've been thinking about it for the last few days and then letting it churn in my mind. And I was asking myself the question, is it trauma or is it stress or is it survival mode? Like what is it that happens to my mind that I lock off all emotions? I'll be honest with you. And I think part of it is trauma. I'll be honest with you. I definitely believe part of it is trauma and the way that I grew up. But I also realized as well, as a man too, when that does the financial aspect, you're being competitive, but you want to see some output. When the output doesn't produce what it needs to produce anymore, the stress that's induced, I don't want to give a heck about love and people's emotions. I don't give a heck at that point. All right. I don't want to give a heck about people. I don't. And I was in the shower the other day, and the water was cascading on my body, as the warm waters were just, trickling down one's back, and the steam was filling up the room. Okay. And you heard the glass, you know what I mean? That was protecting myself from the water from falling onto the bathroom floor. And I looked and I cleaned the glass to look inside the mirror that's facing me opposite. I was looking at myself and I was like, bro, why are you so stressed? Why are you so stressed? Is it that you're survival mode now? Okay. Or is it trauma? Is it what is it that because honestly, I listen, people were calling me. I would see the call and I'll be like, now I'm bad anyway when it comes to communication. If you hit me up, if you hit me up, I'm bad already. But the last 3 months, because it hasn't come back to the way that I know it to be, I see calls and I say, you don't get my time. You don't get my time. You don't get my time. Things got to get done. And there is no complaints. And I think this is where I was asking myself that real question. I started looking at it from a perspective of, okay, I need to sort this out. I need to figure this out. And if I don't figure it out, we're going to have a problem. Okay. If I don't figure it out, I'm going to have a problem. Now, I feel like I'm competing. So that ain't my issue. Competing isn't my issue. We're competing already. We're highly competitive already. That's not my issue, right? I like to compete secretly, even though I don't like saying I do, but I like competing secretly. Okay, so that part wasn't a problem. But the achievement and the performance, that was a big issue, right? That was a huge issue. And I started realizing it's like God was just showing me something and saying, I started having compassion and empathy for men and also for my dad as well, right? Because then I started thinking about it like, okay, he came from another country, came from Africa into UK, suffered with racism, I'm sure, and other stuff like that, and thinking about how he was going to get money to provide for his family. You're not thriving, you're making it, but you're not thriving per se. And then you got people who are dependent upon you. Now, that doesn't mean that my mom didn't work at some point. My mom did work at some point. But the difference is that as a man, when you fail, it's attached to what makes you self-esteem. If a woman doesn't work and things don't go her way, of course, yes, she'll feel some stress. But as a man, you're called to that role. This is what you're called to. So it's different. So the stress is different in the way that it hits you. So I said, wow. So those days because he said, when I lost my job some years ago, he did tell me like, yo, at one point, coach, I didn't even have one chicken. The way he says one chicken kills me every time. He said, yeah, I couldn't even buy one chicken. Yeah, I couldn't even buy one chicken. When he says it increases my soul. He says, I couldn't even want one chicken. I couldn't even bat one chicken. And I'm like looking at him and laughing in it. But as a real thing, it's a real thing. And I realized when I got to that place, and don't get it twisted, listen, I have money in the bank. I want to be very, very clear. This is why I think it's even more different, but it's so similar that I realized I see where men are suffering now, right? I have money in the bank. Don't get it twisted. There's money in the bank. Oh, there's money in the bank. There's money in the bank. There's good money in the bank. My issue isn't the money in the bank. My issue is that I like to keep the money in the bank and I keep it flowing. You see what I'm saying to you? So if I live a certain lifestyle, I don't want to be going into my savings to provide a lifestyle. No. The savings are there for the most rainiest of days or whatever I need to do it for. I guess this money is not for rainy days. This is for buying the house. But the lifestyle is paid by the finances that I make through YouTube, through the merchandise that I do for relationship coaching. And let me tell you something, yeah. The last 3 months, I've been turned off, bro. Yeah, I've been turned off. Yeah, I can be honest with you. I've been turned off. I couldn't give people what they need. I can give them. Now I'm bad already when it comes to communication and stuff like that already. I already know that I'm bad at that. So that ain't different. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. But this was really, I locked off everything. I didn't want to hear no one's voice. I don't want to hear no one's problems. All I can think about was, how do I solve this issue? And as I got to that place, I started realizing, wow. Now, obviously, it started to sort itself out, right? So YouTube is starting to pick up again. The money starts to pick up again. Other things are coming into play. Different doors are opening again. But whilst those doors felt shut and money was getting to, I couldn't emote. I couldn't be my emotive self. I couldn't give people my emotive support. I didn't have it in me. You understand what I'm saying to you? I didn't have it in me. All I could focus on was the problem. And I started asking myself a question. Is this how we are as men in general? Do you get what I'm saying to you? So I'm asking myself a serious question for men. Is this how we are in general when it comes to having the pressure of having to provide and everything on your neck, and you not being able to provide the performance? Because remember, it's performance, competition, to compete, and to achieve. Achievements come in different forms, but the performance aspect usually relates to the output too. Interesting. Yes. So now this aspect, when it comes to relationship, I'm going to struggle to give you what you need because I'm thinking about, how do I solve the issue? I'm thinking in that moment, how do I solve the issue? Because remember, not only is the family on the line and the finances of that family on the line, the esteem is my esteem is on the line. I can take that straight. As a man, my esteem is on the line. My evaluation of myself is on the line. So now I have to figure something out. I have to figure it out. Love that point, Cassine. I have to figure something out. If I don't, I'm going to ask myself serious questions. This is where I can fall into depression. Because now I'm realizing I can't perform. Do you see what I'm saying to you? Right? Like, if me and you in a relationship, nobody's saying that, oh, as a woman, she should be providing for her family. That's not your role. You can do, but it's not your role. When you're solo, it doesn't really, it hits you, but it's not as deep. When you've got a family, when you've got bills to pay for other people, and you as a man, people are looking at you as a man like, what are you going to do? So your esteem is on the line. So what that woman is saying is so powerful as to why men are going through this at this point in time. Now, of course, Now we can start working on how to bring solutions once we understand where these men are coming from, right? Now, my issue a lot of times with things like the manosphere, and the things like the manosphere, Red Pill and Nems, is the psychology behind what's happening at the moment, right? Because the men have focused their attention on women because they believe that women entering the same space as them has forced them to compete with women. And there is some ounce of truth in there, right? There is some ounce of truth in there. Women are saying they're getting the bag, they're getting their bag, they're getting their things out there. Do you know what I mean? They're competing out there, they're producing out there. You know what I mean? They're doing their thing. Okay? They're doing their thing. Now, the best advice we need to be starting to say we, but me as a man, and starting to get to men to understand is our competition isn't with women. And even because we get so focused on competing with women, we miss what we're called to do. You understand what I'm saying to you, right? You get so locked in to competing with women because we thought that they are the issue because they've entered the same space that we're now in. We're now fighting them rather than really understanding what we're called to do in our lane. This is why it goes back to that principle of 80-20 when the man said to you, run the race that you should be running. Some of you are in the wrong type of race. I.e., let's stop crying about women who earn more than us and you can't afford her. I don't want to be fighting them kind of gal. I don't understand. That's not my race. You're causing yourself unnecessary stress. This is why Just Pearly has the audience that she does, because there is a bunch of men, no offense, and in fact every offense, but no offense, but every offense meant is, and let me highlight this so that I can chop it up a little bit later on for myself as well. Okay, all right. Let me put this here. All right. So men not competing is causing us more stress. And I'm talking about, when I say competing, what I mean in the sense of finding your particular race to run. You can't run every race, right? You can't run every race. Do you see what I'm saying to you, right? And I'm going to put it in relationship terms so we can understand, so that the focus doesn't get lost and then we have to redo the message again. What I'm telling these men is stop focusing on these girls who are not in your race. You're trying to say that these women, and there are some women that are delusional. I'm gonna be honest with you, there are, right? But why are you focused on the delusional women? See, you can only reset the structure by doing what you're called to do. But you're fighting the micro, but you ain't winning the macro. The macro is that every man focuses on what they're called to do. This resets the system structure, because it is by your gifts and your gifts, and your talents will make room for you before kings and queens. So the man has to focus on that, because first of all, you get your esteem from performance, competing, and achieving. The problem we have at the moment is the focus has been shifted onto women because they do compete on a financial aspect with us. Yes, because they now get the bag. So I can understand why the focus got shifted to them. I actually understand it. And this is what I'm trying to say. I actually get it now. I get where you're coming from. They are seeing women come into the same space role of financial provider, which oftentimes gave them their aspect of competition, achievement, and performance. So just hear me out, ladies. I understood it. What gave these men their validation and esteem was performance, competition, and achievements. And that was oftentimes wrapped up in the finances you have to give. So oftentimes what men were doing were, we get our esteem from, we provide. Now women are entering into that space. The competition, the performance, and the achievement is suddenly now in question. But if we focus on the micro, you will end up fighting women. Women. Right? You end up fighting women when you focus on the micro rather than the macro. The macro, the larger picture, is that every man focus on himself and focus on what you are called to do. When you are focused on what you're called to do, you find people who are also in the race, or who are in your lane or in your space. Do you get what I'm saying to you? Like, there's no point me trying to compete with Paul Logan and KSI because my content is completely different to them. So I'll be running the wrong type of race. I'll be getting myself stressed, asking myself, why is it that me personally, I ain't got 20 million subscribers and I haven't got a wide range of things? That's where the issue becomes. So this is where then every person has to really understand that. Don't lose sight and focus of where, as a man, you are called to, because it's causing you stress. It's causing undue pressure. Do you know what I'm saying to you? It's causing you stress and undue pressure. Now, by all means, as more women enter, the workforce, get in the bag, creative arts, whatever can make you, whatever can give you finances, whatever can give you finances and give you ability to provide for yourself. This is always going to be the competition aspect as well, like where people are going to compete and performance and achievement is going to be met, right? And so as more women enter those spaces and have the ability to provide for themselves, you're almost having to ask to pivot. And the pivot is that, what else can I show that I can compete on? What else can I show that I can what else can I show that I can perform on? And what else can I show that I can gain achievements from? It's not just money. Money is an aspect, but it's not just money. Do you see what I'm saying to you? So that shift has to happen for us as men, because it's causing us undue pressure and stress. Now, I've kind of shifted away from my original message, because what I was talking about was even talking about in the beginning in terms of how for men, they go through situations in relationships. It's also important as well, right? So it's again about being competitive in those fields, so let's get deeper into those things anyway. All right, I want to listen to the video a little bit more, and then I'll break some more stuff down. Hopefully this is making sense for you guys. I'm still wrestling with it in my head a little bit as well, but yeah, hopefully it makes sense.
Their self-esteem is so wrapped up in relationships that a woman may let others' needs determine her stress limits while ignoring her own needs. Therefore, women get caught up in the dilemma of overdemand and insufficient self-maintenance, while men repress and compartmentalize their feelings of stress in an effort to attain an extrinsic object. Hence, the self-management and self-maintenance demand is different for men and women. Women nurture and reach out to others when confronted by stress. They seek support and talk therapy to lower their anxiety and find a solution to answer to their problems. By processing emotionally what has occurred, women share the stress of their predicament. Men seek escape when confronted by stress. They compartmentalize and repress their feelings in an effort to get away from their dilemma. They change the subject through diversions such as sports and clubs. They do not, however, emote or discuss their feelings, but rather hit that tennis or golf ball competitively. Stress management can be taught to both men and women.
Okay. So as she was saying some really important points, right? She started talking about how men deal with stress, right? And I've even got a few bullet points in terms of how stress management can work. And men oftentimes exert physical force in their stress, right? So when they're feeling stressed, when they're feeling overwhelmed, when they're feeling like the world is on their neck and their shoulders, they exert their stress through physical force and physical means, which usually comes in the aspect of sports, doing some kind of sport and event, or something that is aerobics, or exercise, or something that involves some kind of force. You know what I mean? Right? It's some force. And so that's really important for men as well, specifically, that when it comes to the way that we're dealing with stress in 2023, how we got to deal with it is that we got to get back to the basics. Whether it's you going to enter boxing, whether it's you going to enter cycling, whether it's you enter football or soccer or tennis or badminton or whatever, or going for a run, or you need something that's going to allow you to relieve yourself of the stress, because that stress is killing people. And then that stress, because of that stress, it makes you focus on the wrong things. Right? It's going to get you to focus on the wrong things. Yeah. So what I'm trying to get them to understand is when we're under stress, we focus on the wrong target. This is what's happening specifically within the manosphere. The stress that they're feeling is making them focus on the wrong thing. Like when someone's so confused by they've been so confused they start fighting everybody around them. It's like that's what's happening in the manosphere at the moment, and specifically with men in general. I think as a general populace, not every man, but it's a general populace. The fight that we're having at the moment is that the stress is now forced upon you, and you are looking at the wrong thing because you don't have a stress reliever, and you need it, right? And oftentimes, and trauma as well, Natalia. And in fact, sometimes the trauma also is what the trauma also as well. The trauma also is what leads to the stress factors. Like the trauma also is another thing that causes stress. Do you get what I'm saying to you? The trauma is another thing that causes stress. So now it's like what's happening in this particular instance is, you have trauma, or you have home issues or whatever, or your financial issues right now or whatever. And these are all stress factors that build on you, right? And as a community of men, when these stress factors come upon you, what do? You're almost looking for the immediate thing, just to kind of, you're almost hitting out because there's too much pressure on you. So you're almost hitting out. And I think that's what's happening specifically within the Black community too, is that the amount of stress and pressure that these men are feeling is now causing the hit out. And that's why sometimes I listen to some of these videos and I'll be like, where are they going with this? Like, this doesn't even make sense. Like, we're in a place now where people are saying they can't hold Just Pearly accountable, but they can hold Black women accountable. I'm like, yo, bro, this don't make no sense. Y'all be saying stuff, or y'all be saying stuff that, don't even make sense. Like you're so confused now. You're not even making logical points, because you said you can hold women accountable, but then when it comes to Just Pearly, you can't hold her accountable and stuff like that. So that comes from a place of what? Stress. You can't even think logically anymore. And that's why I started seeing these people. I was like, okay, we need to start being able to talk to men about real issues and real topics. Do you know what I'm saying? That we need to talk about some real things, because some of the things that they're facing at the moment, problematic. So yeah. Okay, so let me just see. But let's see. Okay, so I think there's some conversations in the chat and stuff, and I don't think it's coddling, to be honest. I don't think it's coddling. I know people like to go to this place that is coddling for men. It's not necessarily coddling. It's just a redeliverance of a message, so people don't forget where they're at. Sometimes what men need is a re-emphasis of a message, And that's why I said a lot of people, again, have been put into a place where it's easy now to just succumb to the stress and stop thinking about what you're called to do and focus on the wrong thing, focus on women, you know? And so this becomes an issue, especially for men in a black space, because all that happens is you end up hitting out at the wrong thing. You're supposed to hit, just not the women, you know what I mean? And I mean that in a more competition aspect, right? You're supposed to focus on what role you're called to. You know what I mean? And the reality is, you don't need every man to do it. You just need a few good men and the rest follow. So you need to get a few men behind you and the rest end up following them behind as well. And that's what becomes very difficult, right? That's what becomes very difficult. So yeah, so the men need an alternative voice at the moment. I think that's what the word is that you said. The men need an alternative voice. You know, they need an alternative voice that's going to start speaking about some of these issues. And there are men out there who do, you know, great work out there. I like King J. He puts some great work out there as well. Matthew Hussey's another great one. He talks about relationships and stuff. Anthony O'Neill, I love the way he talks about finances and talks about relationships as well. And I can't even think of some of my mind. Bashir out there as well. Williams. There's a few other guys as well who there are many men. They just don't often get the voice. Unfortunately, negativity sells, and that's unfortunate. But we do need to start, obviously, as men, start putting out some of these voices so that people can start being led. Because I was on a panel the other time, and one of the guys was like, you know what, I just can't even be bothered to say anything because these men just choose whatever they want to choose. But the reality is men do need to be bothered in order to speak up so that the other men can follow behind. You know what I mean? I was just explaining how people are affected. You know, I'm just explaining how people are affected. And I think this is really important too, to get to that point. So yeah, I think there's a lot to learn from there, you know, a lot to learn from that aspect. And for us as men, I think we need to have some better coping stress management, coping mechanisms. So, like for instance, one of the ways people normally deal with it is meditation. People deal with stress through meditation, physical exercise, music, artistic expression, prayer, spending time in nature. And one of the things I love as well, healthy diet. If you ever start getting on a healthy diet, you start to realize it changes your mind, man. You know? This is also important, you know? This is also important. So it can be very difficult sometimes, you know? It's tough. But yes, the having a healthy diet, sometimes having to change your exercise regime, this can cause you to release some stress. You know, spending time in nature, good for you. Prayer is actually one of the things that I love using as well. And it's something about prayer it just changes you, man. But again, artistic impression, music as a coping strategy, physical exercise, meditation. So here's the thing. You know, I started to think about how okay, so here's my thing. Ultimate Enigma. I'm gonna challenge you. You're not a safe space right now. I'm gonna be honest with you, you're not. Because I know the title is a bit triggering, but I've said nothing that is. And you've been hearing for the last 20 minutes, and you've been saying everything that's not it. You're not a safe space right now. Because nothing I've said about women has been negative. Nothing. Who are you fighting? I just need you to deep it. Who are you fighting? Real question. Who are you fighting? I'm asking that question because this is what we're talking about. When some men are saying that women are competing with them, who are you fighting? We are talking about how to relieve stress. Who are you fighting in Ultimate Enigma? Who are you fighting? Because it's like the third comment that it's like I'm seeing. I'm like, says, who are you fighting? Who are you fighting? You know what I mean? Like, sis, who are you fighting? Tell me who you're fighting, and let's address it so we understand. I want to know where you're coming from. You know what I'm saying? I want to know where you're coming from. So let me get that understanding. So give me an understanding where you're coming from so that I can understand where you're coming from before I jump the gun and I don't actually try to understand where you're coming from. So give me your understanding where you're coming from. Ultimate Enigma, give me your understanding where you're coming from. Because there are men in the chat, by the way. They just don't always talk. Right? They don't always talk. I have a predominantly female audience. They don't always talk. There's a lot of men that actually oftentimes are in the background. Right? So I'm asking you, so who for you are you fighting at this moment? When I say fighting, remember it's the wrong word. The strength of your comments. Why is it so? And maybe this is me reading into it a little bit more. So I'm going to try and make it take out a little bit more. The comments I've seen seem a bit strong. Why is that? Give me your perspective so we can understand. So that I can understand as a man. Did you get me? So that maybe I can give you another understanding of, because I'm trying to be compassionate to men to make them understand as well that this is also a place they can come and they can have conversations, because we want to bring change. What I don't want is men and women on two different sides. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes that don't always look like having every man on the planet on your side. Sometimes I'm saying stuff that men don't really like, and that's understandable. But I only need one man. You know what I mean? I need one man. So if Ultimate Enigma, just give me your perspective so that I can understand, so that I can we can talk, and then maybe we can get an idea where you're coming from too. And then maybe that could be something that I can take into consideration as well going forward, because, you know, maybe I'm missing some things here. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just so I understand a little bit. That's all. Just so I understand a little bit. But again, maybe the title is, maybe the title is, and then that's all. I think maybe that's what it is, you know. So maybe that's what it is, and that'll be fair as well. If it's a title that's causing the fight, I would understand, and I will simmer down and keep quiet. You know what I mean? But I wanted to know, you know. Okay. So she said, lol, not being adversarial. I get what you're saying, but men are adults. They should be aware as an adult how to deal with life. These stresses have been around for decades. Okay. Yeah, I understand. So that's a fair point, right? That's a fair point. And I am not going to disagree with you. The stresses have been around, right? So the stresses have been around for ages. You're absolutely right, right? The stresses change, but the baseline, the foundation of those stresses don't change, right? So I agree with you. You know, I agree with you on that aspect. You know, the beginning basis of how for us as men as a role is important, you know, in terms of it hasn't changed. I agree with that, right? I 100% agree with that. So I'm not even mad at that point, you know. I think it's the men are adults, which I hear you on that. We are. I definitely hear you on that. I could agree with that as well. Men are adults. They should be aware as an adult how to deal with life. These stresses have been around for decades. Okay, so I think, and again, my title was triggering, so I know that title was triggering. I've already said from the very beginning, men don't deal with stress better than women. And to be honest, the title is just to get people in. Men don't deal with stress better than women because they have different stresses. So the title is on purpose that way. So I get it. That's why I also said I'll take my my time with it. Men don't deal with stress better than women. They don't. You know why? Because they have two different styles of what? Stress. So the video was emphasizing what causes major stress for both women and men. Two different. So we can't be better than you in relieving ourselves of stress. We can't. Right? We're nowhere near. because we have two sets of stress factors that don't affect us in different ways. So that's really important to understand. So just to answer your question, I totally hear you, and I understand why you might be a little bit offended by the title. So I'm with you. I want to say it again. Men are not better than women in dealing with stress because they have two different factors that mainly affect each other. Do you get what I'm saying to you? So I'm totally with you. So this is fair. That's fair on your part, and I'm not going to be unfair about the way you. I'm not going to react to what you said because I get what you're coming from, right? So just to get an understanding, I understand that. The reason why the title is the way it is because I want these men to see this title, get in, and hear the different message. Because oftentimes all they ever hear is things that don't improve them. They don't improve them. So, but I hear you, ultimate enigma. I hear you. I do hear what you're saying, and I can respect that. I think even though men are adults, what I want to be very aware of is women are adults too. And if your greatest stress is relationships, right? If your greatest stress is relationships, but you don't get it always right, this can show that both parties, men and women, need help. We need help. Not necessarily from each other, but we need help in terms of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And that's what it takes. Dealing with stress management requires knowledge of how to deal with stress, right? We're in 2023, and we need to be able to understand how to deal with stress and how to deal with pressures in life. What these men need is information. A lot of men are lost because the men that are in these spaces. Okay, let me put it fairly. What I feel is happening is that the men that are in these spaces are the ones that have tried to compete but are in the wrong race. Right? These men that are trying to compete are in the wrong race, and they're frustrated and they're angry. Now, of course, they're seeing external factors. They might call it feminism and modern women and 304s and all that stuff, but that's really not an issue. It's not. Because there's always going to be enough women out there who are sensible, who are on point, who are on their path and wanting a sensible man. The reality is the type of men in these spaces oftentimes are ones, I would say often, not all, but oftentimes are the ones that found it hard to compete when it came to relationships in the first place. They didn't have the social cues or the social skills to be able to make it work with the opposite sex. Or what you'll find is people who get hurt in relationships end up falling prey to the manosphere. But once they realize, actually, after they've done some work on themselves, that it's not where it's meant to be, they leave there. So for me, the manosphere is becoming a graveyard of men that oftentimes weren't necessarily, quote unquote, weren't necessarily favorable, and that can be very hard to swallow. You know what I mean? Remember being in school? You remember? You see, I think what happens is it's like you remember being in school, right? And nobody checking for you. Yeah, I love that point, Dahlia. So I think what you're saying, what Dahlia said is powerful there. So in a sense, what I'm saying to you is, I think a lot of these men, it's like being in school over again. You know what I mean? Like when you were in school, there were tiers and leagues and hierarchy. And the girls would always flock to the mandem that were either performance, achievers, or competitive. It's kind of funny, isn't it? The very three things that we're talking about are the very three kind of categories as men fall into that women were attracted to. The men that would compete or fight, that would do the most, in school, clown or whatever, be the funniest clown or whatever. He's competing in some sense, right? They like the guys that would perform. Okay, the guys that were, I would like to say, how do I say? How would I put performance in a way that would make it sense for school? Because I want to put achievement Yeah, no, we could put it that way, right? We could put it in a way of performance in terms of those who were good at academics, but weren't nerdy, but they were good academics but had good social skills, or those guys that were good at sports per se. They might be good at performance or whatever. But then there'll be other. The third one would obviously then be achievements. There were young boys who, at the time, who we all remember being in school, right? There were young people who might have been could have been early achievers. And when I say early achievers, like you might have got an award for something. Like let's say you might have become an academy foot for us in the UK. How I put it is this: you might become an academy footballer, or you were fast track for college football or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like you already had an achievement, some status is what the word should be. You already had some status from that because people see what you've already done. Do you know what I mean? And women would flock to these men. And unfortunately, when you never found yourself in that space, the men who were left behind in school, like, yo, they'd always be kind of like, well, they don't look at us. But they would always find their lane. What I'm finding out is that in the manosphere, what I'm seeing is these men have forgotten to find their lane. And the biggest problem with that is it's social media. Social media has given everybody, but let's talk about the men specifically today. I'm not talking about the women. Social media has given men the ability to see all options on the table, but they're not on the table. Do you get what I'm saying to you? This is both men and women, but we're talking about the men specifically. Okay. All right. The men, okay, are seeing social media and they're seeing all the different options on the table, but they're not all viable. But that doesn't remove the aspect of desire there. See, before social media came in, you had to focus on you. You had to focus. You couldn't think about all the different options. The only options you knew were what were right in front of you. You know? Do you get what I'm saying to you? So now people believe they have far more options, and that makes people more dissatisfied because they feel they deserve more. Now, I'm only talking about the men. Listen, there's things with women too, but as men, we need to look at that aspect as well. There's a lot going on, man. But yeah, social media really does rob people of that, man. It robs people of. It causes even more options. You know what I mean? It causes even more options that men fail to start looking at their own self, but I'm not only self, but they start looking at the vast amount of options that they have. But the reality is you don't actually have that many options, especially when it comes to opposite sex I'm talking about. You find yourself in a place of dissatisfaction. But the reality is like, yo, like you don't have that many options as you think you do. It'd be like that. It'd be like that. Okay. Okay, so underneath the anger is a fear that these men will die alone and unloved. They think all they can get is transactional relationship built on money and sex, so they don't get hurt. That's true. I ain't going mad at that. That's true. That's very true. That's very true. It's a fair point. It's a fair point. I think the interesting thing is that money and status and power are needed, but they are the cherry on the top So let me put it that way. Okay, so let me put it this way. So money, power, status is important because what it does, it can be the beacon of light that draws the opposite sex to you. But what's key is that's usually the deciding factor in the competition, right? So, but the first thing that one, and I think this is where I think what's happened is we've skipped steps. Okay. We've skipped some certain steps. So let me make it this way. We skipped some certain steps, right? The steps are this. The first step should always be value and character, because that doesn't change, and that is your foundation, and that's your bedrock that you stand upon. What's my values and what's my character? That should be a man's bedrock. Do you know what I mean? Okay, D, I'll answer your question. Sorry, I'll get to it. I didn't see it. Okay. But that should be a man's bedrock, you know. A man's bedrock should be that he has character and value in his values, right? Integrity and kindness, compassion, love, and extra, right? Those should be the baseline, because that will always get you the opposite sex, right? Then you add the money, the wealth, the power, and the status. That is what differentiates you then to be able to qualify for even greater women. The problem is that we've skipped that step of value, of character, and what's the word I just used? It's gone on my head, bruv. Let's just say character, right? We've skipped that part, and we've gone straight to the performance metrics, performance competing, and achievement metrics. We've gone straight for that. And what happens is that's not going to maintain a relationship. So the metrics of competing, achievements and performance, they are what differentiate you from the other men around you. But the first thing should be you have a baseline. If you don't have that baseline, you're no good in a long-term relationship. You're only good to attain. And I think this is also causing stress for a lot of men too, because they're not told that. They're just told about how if you have the beacon of light, you will shine bright and you'll get it. But the problem is as well with the beacon of light is it ain't easy to get power, wealth, and status. It ain't easy. Okay. So yeah, we need to get these in check, so yeah, that's a very true point, Lyndon, as well. That's a very true point. Sorry, did I get this? Okay, Didi's question. Okay, I got a question. Yeah. All right, cool. I got Didi's question and I'm gonna answer it for you. Feel free to ask any questions there. My next 45 minutes, any questions you got out there, just send them to me. I think I'll be alone today. I don't think the men will come in today. I think next week I'll bring them back on. We'll talk next week. But okay. All right, cool. Let's see. Do you believe that our Creator placed certain traits within males and females to withstand the trials of life, since we face different struggles similar to hormones, endorphins? So do you believe that our Creator placed certain traits within males and females to withstand the trials of life, since we face different struggles? Yeah, I mean, I think that's what the woman was explaining, to be honest. I think definitely we have it placed in us. Definitely we have different, because again, like the woman said, we have different stress factors. And the way that we are able to overcome those things is to access those very things that cause us stress: competition, performance, and achievements. You have to strive and drive to try and hit those three things in order to elevate, in order to feel esteem. Those are things, and God has given men an aspect of resilience and an ability as well, also to and also ability to problem solve, because they're often in that position too. And so that logic and that mindset of problem solving is what should be used. Is what should be used. You know, is what should be used. But I think for men specifically, I've said this before. We need, and I want to do it on acrimony. I want to, man. But you have to allow men to fail, man. You have to. You have to allow men to fail. They need the opportunity to fail, because sometimes when they don't fail, and they don't fail, then what happens is, they oftentimes don't have the stamina and the endurance to be able to withstand some of the harshities of life. Do you get what I'm saying to you? That doesn't mean that women can't survive life either. What we're talking about is each gender has their ability to do what they're supposed to do. Do you get what I'm saying, me? Right? Like, we need the opportunity to fail. And some men understand that better than others. Some men don't, because they've not been allowed to fail. And in fact, a lot of these men that have not been allowed to fail, it's not because of their dad, it's because of their mom. So if you really want to talk about something, we can talk about some things. Let's talk about some things. I'm going to talk about some things. If we're talking about men being coddled, they're not being coddled by men. They're being coddled by women. If you want to go there, I don't know if you want to go there, but we can go there. If these men are being coddled, they're not being coddled by other men. They're being coddled by women. Now, I can follow that and be true and say, if I follow it through, those women oftentimes have been let down by a father figure. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? It's nobody's free. Do you get what I'm saying to you? Nobody is free in a situation. Nobody. Which is why I'm saying it's not. I can't put sole blame on the men. I can't put sole blame on the women. Because if I look at some of these men that are failing to compete, you'll find that the coddling that happened, that you talk about, Ultimate Enigma, it's not coming from men. It's coming from women. Now, of course, you may say, where was a man's father? Probably he might have been absent. He might not have been able to get to that child. He might have even been there. He might even have definitely been there. But the coddling don't happen with men. It happens with women. Right? So now you have to realize that both men and women are part of this problem, which is why I keep saying I can't do this without women, and women can't do this without men. But back to Dee's question. Do you believe that our creator plays certain traits within males? I absolutely believe so. I absolutely believe so. I absolutely believe that men have those things in them, but they need the opportunity to fail. They need the opportunity to try and fly and fall. They need the opportunity to try and fly and fall. Because with that, what happens is these men get the idea in their head that, and this is why that's why I said sometimes what red pill manospheres say is true. It's the way they deliver it and the way that they talk about the opposite sex is annoying. But the reality is that when it comes to men, nobody is coming to save you. Yeah. As a man, no one is coming to save you. No one is. So if you have people that keep coming to save you, oftentimes this is where people end up not thriving. Now, I'm not saying that you should have nobody to pick you up. That's completely different. That's not what we're discussing here. Healthy families have a way of being able to be picked up, right? Healthy families have a way of, being able to encourage each other and stuff, right? Being picked up isn't necessarily an issue. It's when you're afraid of letting it's when you're afraid of letting them fail, right? And this is why I say that men can't fail their sons by not being there, because that's even one thing that a man has to teach another man, which a young boy, which is that, hey, if you fail, you get back up again. Oftentimes women tend to coddle. Not because they're coddlers, but because they use their emotions oftentimes. So it's really interesting because men are part of this as well, right? Men are part of the issue as well. And I remember I said this about DeVale Franklin when he said about how DeVale Franklin said about an example when a young girl falls over, we say, who pushed you? When a young boy falls over, we say, come on, son, get up, get on with it, right? So AW's talk. Okay, so AW, you're going to talk about a point that I'm going to bring into you. I'm going to bring your point in because it's sorry, AW bring a point. I want to say this as well. Okay. So and but yes, so oftentimes what men will do to other young boys is they'll be harder on them and they'll be more softer on them. And it's very funny because, and I'll go back to your point, AW, in a second. What you're talking about, Ultra Enigma. This is why I said that nobody's free. So this is why I said the energy for men, you're going to have it for women too, because we're both at fault here. If we don't have healthy homes, what we don't realize is the same way that mothers raise their daughters and love their sons is the exact same thing that men do for their daughters. They do the same thing. They raise their sons and they love their daughters. Because when you get a man that actually loves his daughter, you'll realize that the father starts to soften, right? He softens. That's where the daughter learns how to ask for things and is sitting on dad's knee and is getting the favor from the father. Decent fathers, not the ones that are trash, right? This is why both people are needed, because their weakness is in the opposition. Fathers get weak with their daughters and they love their daughters, but they raise their sons. And there are mothers out there who raise their daughters, but they love their sons. And this is so you need both. You need both, right? We can talk all day about men leaving. And then the men can also talk about the fact that we can talk all day about women choosing bad men to sleep with and have kids with. And we can talk about how all day that men lie. And the men will say all day, but there are women out there who also lie and then also take accountability for the fact that they wanted to have kids at any cost. See, there's no, if we keep blaming each other, we're gonna never do what we're supposed to do. You know what I mean? So, but we need both parties. We need both parties. But I'm speaking to the men because I want the men to hear this. You know what I mean? So it's very important, But I take your point. They're absolutely true. There's a good point, Ultimate Enigma, that the women do especially when they're single mothers, they tend to be harder on their daughters. And the reason why is because she sees herself in her daughter and does not want her daughter to be in the same position that she is in. The trouble is, and this is, and some men do this as well, and I'll talk about this in a second. The trouble is that oftentimes our life and how we live it is often the story and the narrative and the actual instructions we give to children, not what you said. Do you get what I'm saying to you? Oftentimes, it's not what you said to your daughter that is causing the effect later on. It's what you did. And sometimes and not sometimes, men do this for their sons as well. They think that by telling them stuff, this is what changes them. No, I'm watching what you do. Show me, don't just tell me. Right? We follow and we copy what was done. not what was said. Do you get what I'm saying to you? So now, thank you, peace. Love that point. So this is important now in the dynamics in relationships. So yes, just like I believe that there are mothers who will teach their daughter and will teach their daughter how to be single rather than as somebody who can actually enter a relationship, is the same way that fathers will teach their sons how to be polygamous in their dealings, but untruthful in the way they behave and uncommitted. Because you telling me that you treat women right, or you telling me treat men and serve them, but then when I see you behave, this ain't what I'm seeing. Do you see what I'm saying to you? People are training their kids to be the worst partners. You think you're saving them, but you ain't showing. You're not realizing that your own behavior is teaching them how they gonna go. Yeah, we ain't teaching them. So we got to show people, not tell them. We got to show them, not just tell them. Let's show them a better way, a different way. So I look at men and I see sometimes how they are, and how many times, what was I listening to? Someone sent me something. No, we can use it. Marshall, Marshall from Marshall from Love is Blind, right? Marshall from Love is Blind. What did he say? What did he remember? What did he remember? Is it what his dad said or what his dad did? This is why I'm bringing back my Tuesday nights, y'all. I'm bringing back my Tuesday nights. I'm doing my videos on what my father taught me. I'm bringing it back again, so that we can have some real discussions. But again, once more, I'm talking about it again. What did Marshall's dad tell him versus what he saw? Because what made the most impact to him was what he saw. I agree with that, Dahlia. I agree with that. Right? So it's what you're doing rather than what you're just, rather than just what you're saying, which is important, which is why I'm holding myself to account. Because I need you to see that I'm going to do what I said. Now, sometimes I don't be always doing that. I tell you I'm going to be, the one thing you can definitely count on Kojo for doing, I'm going to be late. Okay? I'm going to be late. You can count on me for that. I'm trying to change, but it just don't be changing. And you might have to forgive. You know what I mean? But, so, but the important thing here is that what am I teaching people? And it's not what I'm like. I can talk. I've been talking for the last hour and a half. Yeah, I've been talking for the last hour and a half. And let me be honest with you. I'm sure you guys heard bits and bobs, but you know what you're gonna remember? You're gonna remember the transaction, the conversation I had with Ultimate Enigma. Yeah, you're gonna remember how did he deal with Ultimate Enigma. Yeah, you remember. I'm not saying you're not gonna remember parts of the conversation. You are gonna remember parts of the conversation. Okay, all right, you are. But what you're gonna remember is, well, there was a little moment where Kojo challenged Ultimate Enigma, but how did he do it? Was he rude? You're gonna remember how you felt in that moment. Was he rude? Did I feel uncomfortable when he addressed it? Did he start shouting? Was he being loud? Was he doing too much? Those are the key moments. So I can say everything I just said for an hour and 20 minutes, hour and 30 minutes, but you're going to remember that key moment. What did I do? So I could do all this talking and I could undo it simply by doing something that's contrary to what I said is how we should behave. So then the next thing I got to do is, if I make a mistake, this is why I did the apology videos. If I make a mistake, I have to show you how I expect to be behaving. You know, I don't know where the men are, Diana. I don't know. They're meant to come true, but I don't know where they at. So, you know what I mean? So I said I got to be here. I've messaged them. I'm meant to be here, so I'm gonna be here. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, but I got to be here. So they know I put the thing in through, but they might be busy. So I think they're a little bit busy. To be honest, I think they actually are busy. So it's one of those nights where I'm by myself, but it's all good. Yeah. So I have to lead in the charge of showing you how it's done. Do you know what's so funny? I don't know if I can. I don't know if I'll find a clip in time, but I was on Anton's page some weeks back, and we are talking about the Just Pearly situation. And he said something. It was so funny because he was talking about an issue, and I said, "Well, that's not me. That's not me at all." And he said, "You know what? Yeah, you're right. You're pretty consistent on that. So I ain't gonna hold you to that. Why? Because that's what I do. Not what I said, but what I do. That's the most important thing. If I want the child to follow a certain way, I have to lead it." Someone said, Katie says she wants Gucci bags next time. Gucci bags. If I had it like that, you would get it. You know what I mean? If I had it like that, I'd get it. You know? So so I'm saying to the men specifically, but I'm talking to the women too, that, you know, I'm saying to the men too that it's important that we lead in behavior. And this is where, when I'm going into the manosphere, when I'm going into Red Pill content creators, when I'm getting on these panels, what I'm trying to do is trying to say, now I'm going to be honest with you guys. Last week I lost it. I can't lie to you. I lost it. I want to be honest with you. I lost it. It was not my finest moment. I lost it. I lost it last week. I was on a panel with someone you might remember, Patriarchy. I don't know if you guys remember Patriarchy. He came on my panel one time, and him and Seaway had a mad argument in it. So I was on a panel last Monday, and I was talking on the panel, and towards the end, Patriarchy came in. And honestly, he started talking the was that I don't really want to be discussing. And I just told him to shut the F up. I don't want to hear your shut up. I don't want to hear your shut up. I was mid talking and he interrupted. And I said, I don't want to hear your shut up. Right. And, you know, I lost it for about a minute. I don't want to hear your voice. Shut it. I don't want to hear it. Shut your mouth. I don't want to hear it. Right. Now, obviously, you got to the end of the show and we waited after the show. And I apologized to him. I said, bro, I know you're not asking for an apology, but I am sorry. Because that I don't want to ever lose it like that. I ain't lose it. But again, I want to be able to lead in the way that I want to model conversations to go. Right? So I don't want to do that, regardless of whether I disagree with your point or not, whether I think you're annoying or not. I don't want to lead in that way. So I said to him, I'm sorry, bro. I apologize. That's not how I want to lead things. He says, cool, bro. We're just talking. It's all right, cool. We had a good conversation after that. We agreed and disagreed. Yeah? We agreed, disagreed. And the reason why I did that again is because, again, I want to show him that's not how we want to do things. You know what I mean? That's not how I want to do it. Yeah? So, you know, sometimes you have to learn to model the behavior, and sometimes that will cost you your pride, that will cost you you know, face a little bit. You take an L in that moment. Okay? You take an L in that moment. You know? And when you take an L, it's okay. I wonder if I can find a video. I honestly told him, I don't want to hear your shit. I was like, yo, I don't want to hear your shit today. I just don't want to hear it. Like, I want to see what I can find out. I can find out. I think I do have I think I remember it was. It was on. I'm sure. Let me see if I can find it for you guys. Well, I said I don't give a shit. Just don't talk. Just don't talk. I don't want to hear it. You know. Let's see. If I can find it on for you guys. Yo, I was flying that day, boy. I was doing okay until he came in and just told me to just shut the F up. Yeah, I don't want to hear your voice. Just shut up. I think I found it. Okay, fantastic. I found it. Let me see if I can get the clip where it was. I was making a point. That's the point. I was making a point to the panel and I was having a really good conversation. And it got to a point, he just came in. I just told him to shut the F up. I don't want to hear his voice. I didn't say shut the F up. I said, I don't want to hear your shit right now. Here's a video. Listen.
Something to me first, though. No, you said something to me first.
Hold on. I don't want to hear your voice. Chat shit. Okay, well. Excuse the language, guys. Hold on. Wait on. I'll go back.
Yeah. In our culture, it is like black people, Nigerian.
No. That's not just in our culture. So everybody in the world knows that black people are the latest people. Period.
Nigerians are.
I'm gonna say it. Right. We are the absolute latest everywhere, and I hate that shit.
Hello.
What does that mean?
I'm gonna let y'all guys go because I'm about to go. See, my problem with this is when someone make a joke or they talk about something true, I don't think you can get offended about it. Now, if she would have made a comment that was untrue and it misrepresented black people, I say you get mad about it. But her joke, black people being late, I have did that joke at least 10,000 times because black people are late.
I hate when black
people eat chicken. Black people eat watermelon and eat chicken. Do black people eat watermelon and eat fried chicken? If a white person took it and made it into a minstrel and said, "Do you know what? This is just me being funny." Is that okay at that point?
But look, Michael, you never
No. That's the point. It's not funny at that point. It's weaponized. Okay, I don't want to hear your voice because you just chat shit everywhere we go. So I don't want to hear your voice.
Yeah, but what I'm telling you is true, though.
I don't want to hear your voice. You chat shit.
Okay, well, you allowed to talk here? I think. I don't want to see you as an immigrant.
Wait, Eric, we're not doing that. No,
you said something to me first, though. No, you said something to me first, though.
Okay. I have a question. Look, so you don't.
So that was the extent of me losing my rag there. I just didn't want to hear his voice, you know. But I had to apologize to him after because regardless whether I thought whether I liked it or not, I was wrong. You know what I mean? So I just told him, listen, shut up. Okay, just please. Okay, all right. So you know, when you make a mistake, you have to apologize, even if it feels too much, even if you feel like it's like no. You're wrong and just apologize. You know, you're wrong, apologize. You know what I mean? So it's tough on the dunya. You know, it's tough on the dunya. So listen, look, we're making waves on the side of the internet. Look, when I went there and some people came around this side, I could see that, you know what, that as people have come to this side and they've seen how you guys go, and seen how you guys conduct yourselves, they've gone back to their panels and try to regulate it in a similar way because they see how to conduct themselves in a way that it's not too chaotic. Do you know what I'm saying? So, you know, I think the reality is like we have to be leaders in the way that we lead as men. You know what I mean? So sometimes I go there, we have conversations, they know who I am now. You know, but I want to make sure that, hey, when you come to our side, it's peaceful around here. You're gonna have, and that's how we begin to influence people. And I saw it did because when I went over to some other people's, they were trying to regulate it. It's hard to because you know what, when you're used to a certain way, it's hard to. When dysfunction is functional, and it makes money that way, it's hard to change. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not mad at it. But people do get influenced, especially the guys when they come over here and they see that. When we had a panel some 2 weeks ago, a couple of guys came over. When they went back, I saw that influence them. Now, it gonna influence them to change all the way? Maybe not. But you know, they do. You see changes in them, and sometimes it takes a little bit of a while. Titanic can't turn overnight. It's got to turn around. It's got to give it a bit of time before it turns around. Yeah, it is a mess over there. Ultra Enigma. If you want to go over there, people's mics are just open. People are just saying stuff. People are moving mad. Like, yo, it was crazy. This panel here, let me tell you something. Look, I was trying to defend one of the girls on the panel, and then she just started moving absolutely mad. And I said, what is going on? Old sis just started moving. Suncray, Monique, she just started moving mad. Like, the man was moving mad, and I like, relax. But then she started moving mad. I said, no, I can't. You know, I can't. You know. But anyway, listen. You know, a little chop up tonight. Nothing too crazy. You know, we're back tomorrow for Love Is Blind. In fact, I need to put up the time it's gonna be. So what time was it? Time almost 3 o'clock. I'm gonna go to bed early today. I've been going to bed at 10 o'clock. I don't know what's happening, but I've been going to bed way late. You know, I'm gonna go to bed way late. But we're gonna go to bed early today, and we're gonna wake up early for a show on Monday, so I can do Love Is Blind. I actually watched it just not long ago, Love Is Blind. So let me just say this. Interested. Okay, that's what I'm gonna say. Very, very interesting. That's what I'm gonna say. Okay, Love Is Blind, the last episode 6. Interesting. That's what I'm gonna say. Some people are mad. Oh no, darling, no. 10 a.m. 10 a.m. And listen, no, not 10 p.m. 10 a.m. Katie and Dahlia, 10 a.m. Angel Eyes, yeah, listen, problem. I don't know if you must have been there that night. Yo. Woo, that night. Boy, let me tell you something. That night, but yeah, Marshall, he gonna need some saving. I'm only on episode 6. Should I do 6 and 7? I feel like I don't want to do 6 and 7 in one day. You know? I don't want to do 6 and 7 in one day, but and then Kwame met Kwame met Chelsea's parents, but the way she was capping. You know what I mean? The way she was capping, like her father was gonna move mad. No, CXM episode 7 is out already. 7 and 8 is out already. CXM. 6, 7, and 8 is already out. So let's get into it. Yeah. Someone says do all 3. Baby. 6 and 7. Because I started talking about 7. I ain't gonna lie to you. I need to see 7 then, because I need to see that. All right, we'll do 6 and 7 tomorrow then, innit? All right. I'm gonna do it early because I need to get up early, so I'm gonna do it early. I'm gonna do it like 7 o'clock for you guys, 7 EST, because I'm gonna get up early. So let me just put this: Love Is Blind, episode 6 and 7 live breakdown. Put it in, schedule it. Don't wake me up. Don't wake me up. I mean, wake me up, Lord. Wake me up, Lord. Wake me up. All right. All right, guys. We're gonna see you tomorrow, okay? Oh, how Sean? Sean, how you? I'm just about to go. You know. Sean, how you?
My bad, bro.
It's okay, bro. Don't worry about it. I've been talking to the ladies. I've been talking to the ladies. You about to fuck up my routine. What's good? You about to mess up my routine. Talk to the ladies for a second or two because they want to hear your voice tonight, bro. We were just talking about stress.
Okay. Usually they be all tight and upset with me on a Sunday in the men's panel. They be sick of me on a Sunday.
They love you, bro.
They want my mic going, and they're like, where do these guys get these mics from? My bad, bro. I was running around all day long today, and then I got home, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna take a quick nap. I pulled a Kojo.
Oh, you did me, bro. You did a quick nap? That ain't gonna work, bro. You take a quick. You know me. If I take a nap,
I'm like, oh no.
If you take a nap around here, bro, you know you ain't getting up, bro. That happens to me all the time. You know,
wrap.
You be calling me, so. Sean be calling me, and I'll be like, "Yeah, my bad." Like, yeah. I'll be like, "Yeah." I was asleep.
Oh, they said that I can't say my bad because I got.
Oh yeah, you can't apologize. My bad.
I apologize.
I'm gonna need a full apology. I'm gonna need a full apology. Okay.
I apologize.
No worries, sir. I'm an apologist that needs I need that financial compensation. Sir. Okay.
Well, you gonna take this apology. That's all we got today. Yo, but bro, I caught the tail end, right?
Yeah, bro.
What are you doing out here?
What are you talking about?
Why are you just trying to get over there in these crazy places and
trying to win them souls.
You want to win the souls. You want to be the change you want to see?
I do, bro. So I gotta win them souls, bro. Gotta win them souls. Ain't easy.
Out of control. But can we talk a little bit about
go for it
before we mosey on off? Because there's just been much conversation across the YouTube streets, especially Black YouTube and a lot of Black YouTubers.
Talk to them, bro.
Around this whole just Pearly thing, and it just really, and I don't like to get into this one said this and this one said that, but I caught a little piece of your the live that you had jumped on. I guess that was on the Lapeef network. Were you on the Lapeef network?
Oh, what, on Anton Daniels one? No. Yeah. Wasn't Lapeef.
So, I guess I just have a problem with, there's this whole notion of like what being on code looks like and how we are unified as a group. And I think it's just something that we really struggle with. And to be honest, it's Sunday, it's a men's panel. Men, we need to lead in that, right? We are the ones that should be the one that are setting the tone for what we expect from our community at large. Now, granted, our community isn't a monolith. Everybody doesn't think the same. We come from different cultures within the Black diaspora, but ultimately we are all one group of Black people, right? And I think we need to just really, really, really learn how to unify. And that's one of the reasons why things like this happen, where we allow people to come that are outsiders, and they come in, and it's been happening since the beginning of time.
Yep.
And then it just there's this I don't even know what to call it, but they're able to come in and almost disrespect us. And it's like open season.
Come on. And
I think like we just have to do better when it comes to, being protective of who we are, right? There's nothing wrong with us allowing other groups to be appreciative of what we've done and our culture, but we are way too comfortable allowing other groups to mock us, to emulate us, in a way that we know is really not complimentary, right? There's just, you know, what is that? Felicia said, like the gatekeepers. The gatekeepers. We're not gatekeepers of our culture consistently. And then a lot of times, I got to be honest, it's the sisters. The sisters are the ones that step up and say, no, you're going too far. And then you'll get you know, there'll be some brothers, because there's been some brothers that have come out, you know, talking and speaking against things that have happened, but sometimes it's a little too much and a little too late.
Come on, bro.
And I'm sorry, as men, we have to do better. You know, we have to do better when it comes to that. We have to do better at, when we think about the protecting and the providing, right? We need to be protectors of our culture. And it's just been so disappointing to what I've seen. It's like people are going to, I'm going to downgrade my fellow brother to uplift this other person that really doesn't care about our culture. You know, but I'm going to up it, and just for the greater good, I'm going to call someone a simp, or, you know, I'm just going to try to downgrade them, or I'm going to demean them in the means to defend someone else that's an outsider. And I'm like, and meanwhile, this person does not care about us, you know, has said insensitive things about us, has been flippant about our culture and who we are. And then they skate on the surface, and then people pretend like, oh, well, is she saying something that's not true? Okay. You know, like, I think like we just, you know, just as men, we just really do have to do better. We have to do better at seeing these things ahead of time and not just allowing anybody to come through the door, right? People need to be better vetted. So it's beyond like being outraged when somebody does something, but we need to be proactive in the sense of, hey, listen. And it's not like no one should have ever collaborated with her or anything like that. No, I'm not saying just that. But to have her in such close ranks, to elevate her, that kind of stuff, I kind of look at it sideways, because to me, it's like, why are you elevating? Why is there a need to elevate her? What is she saying that's so different? Does she bring something different to the table? You know, because I could see if she was saying something that's so different and so unique, they were like, oh, wow, I've never heard it from that perspective. She's just repeating someone else's information. So why elevate somebody like that? I don't, that for me is, and, you know, very, very unfortunate. And I think, like, again, as men, we need to be the protectors. You know, and we need to be the ones that, if we talk about we're the ones that want to have vision, then we should be able to have that vision, to be smart enough to see things before they happen and to understand, like, don't play stupid. Like, that's like, don't play dumb. Don't think like, oh, because somebody said something that's true. Okay. So culturally, yes, brown people of color, we're historically known to be late. Okay. But are we going to dive into why that is? Are we going to dive into, certain things we may know, but we don't, for someone to say it and say it in a way, it's demeaning. So, like, at the end of the day, we've gotten too comfortable with, you know, certain things. Even, you know, I even say, like, the N-word, like, it's just, and you know, if we want to do it in amongst ourselves, yes, but in mixed company, you know, you need to be very cautious with that, because it's almost in way too inviting, and then allowing people to say it like, oh, well, it's just in a rap lyric. No.
That's true as well. That is so true.
You know, I think, like, no group, and I think that's the part of the protection part, because we want to have it both ways, but we have to be unified, you know, and I hear it often, right? You know, there's no other group that is okay when other people say bad things about them but us. We'll align ourselves with other people, you know, like, people of other cultures, they're not going to align themselves with other people for approval. No, they're going to be always like, hey, listen, somebody said this is wrong. You said this is anti-Semitic, right? You said this, it's whatever the group is, they get behind it. And we need to do the same.
Bro, I'm with you, bro. And you know, I think the biggest thing that I'm seeing is, bro, like I actually went to I was, just like looking around, internet for, the white community to see what they were saying about the manosphere in terms of Just Pearl. They don't mess with her. They don't mess with her. They don't mess with her. She got onto a majority of our of what we call the Black Manosphere space platforms. Whether she paid for it, whether she was invited, don't really make a difference. And then they allowed her to, begin to talk on those particular points that they talk about, and then she became a leader for the Black Manosphere, and it's because their mission wasn't clear anymore. They lost their mission. Their mission became one of dislike and hate, and when that is the spearhead point of your mission, anybody can join. Anybody can join that space. Do you know what I'm saying to you? So, so it's interesting to find that she entered in that space, and the fact that the way that it's got found out is because of her involved. And again, do you know what? She could have brought on anybody who was racist. It wouldn't have been an issue. It's the fact that the person actually started kikiing, laughing with that person about the issues of Black people, and didn't continue to talk about Jews, but kept on talking. Then ended up bringing points about Black people. That's somebody who doesn't respect you at all, and then plays dumb as if she doesn't know what she's doing. Look, we spoke about this. We spoke about this. We were calling her out ages ago. But the reason why I was calling her out is because I was also calling out Kevin Samuel, some of the stuff he was doing. Because again, some of the stuff is spearheaded with being about making Black people at the butt end of your joke, and that's the problem. You see, when you make your thing about the other party and it becomes almost hateful rhetoric, anybody can jump on that train. Anybody can do it because it makes money, and also as long as you hate the same thing we hate, we good. Right, but that didn't happen. So I think I think the most important thing here is that they need to readdress what their message is. When they first started, it was really about men, get on your ish, work on this and this. This is what's going to make you a good individual within society. Blah 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 blah. That message has gone. It is now about how do we expose these hoes, how do we expose these 3 or 4s. How do we expose what women's flaws are? How do we expose? And it's slowly gone away from men empowering other men to being just about let's just expose these women. Let's just get on these women. And the weakest of men who are not thriving in society, they're gonna stay there because they have nothing to fight for, nothing to compete for, nothing to achieve. And they like it there. You know what I mean? But they need to change. They need to look at how they're gonna change their message. But we definitely need to gatekeep our Black spaces much better, as well. Because, like I said, as much as it was her doing her job in UK, it wasn't UK Black people that had channels. No offense, this is not going on. It's to say that in this aspect, although it was a UK based in terms of where she ended up internationally was not UK. She ended up in the Black American space of male content creators. You know what I mean? And that's where she kind of resided in that space. I think one of them was a British one. I think his name was Zuby. I think, I don't know if he was British, but yeah. So, so for someone to come out and be American, but also then come to UK and then talk about Black people's stuff and then be on Black Americans platforms too. I want to make it specific. And then to say as if you don't know what racism is, that is scary. And then for certain Black male content creators, I'll say one of the names, Anton Daniels, or shirking his ass off. And I got no beef with him, but I just got to call you out for real. That was shirking. And one thing I dislike about the manosphere where I have a problem with them majorly is, and I just watched them on a panel the other day. They're like, last time I said something about, I said about holding women accountable, and AD told me himself, how are we going to hold women accountable? We can't hold women accountable. So why the frick are we doing these panels where you guys are trying to say hold women accountable, but now suddenly you can't hold them accountable? When I spoke about Just Pearly holding her accountable, we don't even hold women accountable. I was like, wait, you have panels, so many of them talking about how you want to hold women accountable, but you can't hold Just Pearly accountable? That kind of shirking, I don't rock with it. And that's why actually D6 called him out. I don't know if you saw D6. She called him out. Oh, she called his ass out. Called him out on live. Shirking, bro. I'm not with that, man.
Yeah, I think like, and this is the other part of it, right? Like, people make mistakes. So even now, the things that are going around that, as she was called out, these aren't apologies. She's aligning herself with people that are giving her a pass, and it's like, oh, I should have been more informed. But the comments that she's made up until this point are not like, oh, she didn't know, she wasn't knowledgeable of the subject matter. You made direct comments about Black people and your thoughts and how, and she minimized slavery, in one fail swipe. She said that, because there were Black people that enslaved other Black people, that we benefited from the system, and that they pretty much were Black people that were, slave owners just like white people. And we were upset about the system ending. I'm like, yeah, that's very broad sweeping, and if you just like she's saying now, oh, she didn't know enough. Well, this had nothing to do with Nick. He wasn't there when you made those comments. There was another Black person sitting right beside you. And I think we're too good with fussing and tussling with each other, but when it comes with somebody else, we don't necessarily keep that same energy. And I think like that's the part that's problematic. It's like you're aligning and propping her up and saying, oh, she's making good points. But meanwhile, she's laughing. She's laughing at us. Because we haven't protected us. And then when people get called out, versus saying like, oh, okay, my bad. Yeah, I didn't see this coming. Or maybe it was a miss on me. People double down. Like, yo, you can be wrong. You know that? Like, I can be wrong. And if I get called out or somebody says, hey, listen, Sean, this was a blind spot for you. And then you keep, you keep going, you keep doubling down. Like, I think that's something that we got to look at. Like, how do men deal with being wrong? Like, are we all on the same page about accountability? Because we're very clear on what we think accountability should look like when it comes to women, but what does it look like for us when we're accountable? Are we able to acknowledge our mistakes? Like, as leaders, can we acknowledge that, hey, listen, I made a mistake? Because if you don't acknowledge it, if they keep doubling down for those that keep defending her, you telling me you don't see no problem with anything that has happened? You don't see how bad this as an at-large community this makes us look? And then people like to go for this exceptionalism. Well, I got what I got, so it don't matter. No, collectively, there is a sentiment about people of color. And the more we try to divide ourselves, right, and say, well, that's me, that's not me, that's them. How are you any different? How are you any better? How are you leading? You're not leading if you keep talking about the exceptionalism piece. So I got a real problem with anybody that can look at everything and how it's happened of late and not saying, oh, okay, yeah, that was a miss on my part. Because that's just going to keep happening.
I'm with you, bro. Yeah, D6 actually six. Sorry, I say D6, but yeah, D6 is Danica and Six together, basically their channel. And they literally just they called him out, boy. Because he was kind of yeah. Beautiful woman, by the way.
Yeah. She's
you know, our black queens are beautiful. She people like that, like who just shirking on the fence and trying to cape. You know, it's like you can still even maintain your relationship, but you can still up, and that's all. We're not. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't even. I wouldn't even be mad if you said you're gonna keep the relationship pearly. I wasn't asking for her to be deplatformed. I wasn't asking her to lose her job. I wasn't asking for any of that. All I was wondering was, you know, look. As for you, you don't need to be in a space. You know what I mean? Like, and clearly you don't respect the space because what you're doing right now shows us you don't really care about the space. You know, and so for me, and then obviously when people do call it out, you're then doing videos on the person and trying to make it, you know, it's just business. It's like there's an aspect which is more than just business, you know. So I just think to myself, it's unfortunate and it's a problem, but that's why I said about and to be fair, listen, the infiltration into manosphere, there's a few women in both white and men and white and black men spaces. I did some research. I looked at them. There's a few. It's like Chantel Moore or whatever her name is, and another girl as well who are actually in the manosphere space in the ways. The difference being here is the intersectionality. There's a white woman in the black man space. There's no black woman in the white men space. It would never happen. Do you see what I'm saying to you? It just wouldn't. They would not have the ability to talk from their particular perch and perspective. So for me, it's like, why did you guys give her this platform to do this? That's the biggest problem, you know. And again, you had someone to validate your common enemy, and that for me is problematic, you know. So, but yeah, they called him out. They called his ass out, bro. You know. Hopefully, anyone else
did he admit any wrongdoing?
King Richard's shirking on the fence too.
What happened?
No, I can show you. I'll show you. That's what happened.
To each other. I even when motherfuckers that I was rocking with, that I was paying, that I was having conversations with, when they was coming against you, I never turned on you.
So let me go to the beginning.
Conversation with you, Anton, because you lie.
What did I lie about?
I don't want to go back and forth with you. You always say
you never saw the video.
You always say you never saw the video. You don't know what no one is talking about.
What did I lie about specifically?
What did you come on here to say, Anton?
I came to say that this is some fake shit, Six, because you know you got my number in real life.
What
and anytime, no, if you're gonna let me speak, let me speak. Anytime that anybody has ever had a question, you know we didn't always reached out to each other. I even when motherfuckers that I was rocking with, that I was paying, that I was having conversations with, when they were coming against you, I never turned on you. And no, hold on. You know this. You know we had real conversations in person. You sat in my crib and we had these conversations. You know I defended you. You know I never mentioned you one time. We didn't always disagree on almost everything that we stood on. Me and you had a conversation, which we disagreed, in my motherfucking kitchen. And I told you specifically, I said, yo, if you ever got a problem with me, if you ever have any disagreement with me, all you got to do is hit me personally, and I will tell you to your face whether or not I got a disagreement with you. And then next thing you know, I look up and I see my name in your mouth publicly. And it's like, wait a minute. How is my name in her mouth publicly when specifically me and you agreed that if we ever had a problem with each other, we would call each other directly? I don't understand. Like, how you gonna say one thing publicly and differently privately when me and Emily had a conversation and we agreed how we was gonna move when it came to each other? I ain't never talked smut on your name. I ain't never said nothing negative to you. I defended you against the very people that had their name in your mouth when it was against my own best interests. I held you down. I always held you down. And even when I thought that you had a problem, you said you had a problem with one of my homeboys. And I specifically called you when I said, yo, that ain't even the case. I remember specifically when you told me, yo, I unfollowed you because you was aligned with this person that I thought I had beef with. And I said, that ain't got nothing to do with me and you. I got a direct line to you. I hit you up, I hit you up if I disagree with you. You never got to worry about nothing, regardless of whether or not me and you disagree on this issue or that issue. And you told me to my face, Anton, I know you disagree with me when it comes to this whole black issue or FBA or whatever, but I understand you differently because your actions show that you actually support black people. You married a black woman. You got a black daughter. You showed me love. I flew you to Detroit. I put you in the best suite. I had you in the kitchen. You talked directly, face to face. You kicked it with my wife. You text back and forth with my wife. And I ain't got to direct each other. And then I look up and motherfuckers like, yeah, Six is saying this and that about you or whatever, so on and so forth. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Let me hit her up. I look up, unfollow me on Instagram, the whole 9 yards. I'm like, what the fuck happened? I thought we had a direct connection and we didn't let none of this online bullshit get in between us. If I have a problem with you, I'll call you directly. If you got a problem with me, you call me directly. I ain't never put your name in my mouth, ever, never in a negative way. And you know this, you know it to be true. So what's happening? Like, why would you do that if you know me and you didn't have this conversation personally?
Are you finished now? Can I talk?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What is wrong with me saying that due to your stance on Pearly, okay, which you are entitled to have, you a grown man. What is wrong with me saying due to your stance on Pearly, I just don't want to deal with you anymore? Why would I have to call you and say anything? For what? You made it clear how you feel and I just don't want to deal with you no more.
And that's cool, but we agreed that we would say that directly and we wouldn't do that publicly.
Directly? For what? I'm supposed to go to you.
Because that's what we agreed to.
No, I didn't agree to that. You agreed to that. You said, hey, you could just come to me. And I was like, okay, I never said, oh, Anton, if we ever fall out, I'm going to come to you. There's no reason to come to you. You're a grown ass man. I can't tell you what to do.
Rita, no. Did she not say this directly in our kitchen, in our crib?
Anton, let me ask you this.
That's crazy.
Who was this video about? Because I find it very interesting.
It was no. It was specifically. You want to know directly? I'll name names. I'll name names.
No. Because I find it very interesting that 24 hours before you made this video, I did a video about how white people need to keep black people issues out their mouth. The next day you made this video. Who was this about?
Specifically, it was about Courtney. And the reason that I went into detail about it, because I said that specifically it was women that was working behind the scenes, trying to destroy us, and people working. And it was more than just Courtney, but it wasn't just Courtney by herself, but it was people behind the scenes when we had got into it, because when she left the Peep Network the first time, she was working with my enemies. It was about more. It was about a lot.
Not my enemies.
Specifically, it wasn't about you. And it was not about Crimson Cure. I have never watched any of your streams about this whole Pearly thing. Okay.
So you still were willing to throw another black woman under the bus to put Pearly above and to take up for Pearly? And no. If this video was not about me, then why did you say this towards the end?
Don't be getting it. Of my very, very thankful. Stop being envious. Stop always looking to criticize, but instead look to add value and get your ass to work and push. When everybody else is grinding, you just sitting there twiddling your thumbs talking about I'm on vacation, I'm not shooting no content.
Now, that's
about B. Taylor. B. Taylor, specifically.
That's very interesting, because I have you in a DM conversation with me saying, why haven't you been streaming? And I said, oh, because I just got back in town. I spent this week with my dad. I'm back on it.
How long ago was that DM, Six?
It was only a few months before that.
So what the hell are you talking about? I just had a conversation in the stream with B. Taylor, and I told B. Taylor, get your ass off your ass, stop taking vacations, and start streaming.
No.
And it's literally on the internet right now.
Do I need to rewind? You specifically said,
B. Taylor said it wasn't her.
stop talking about how you're not posting because you're on vacation. Not
months ago.
And you specifically said, keep on talking about how you're not posting because you're on vacation.
Months ago. And then I just talked to B. Taylor and we did a live stream together.
So you're saying
I
that
told her,
contact B. Taylor. B. Taylor will say that she had a conversation with you where she said that she's not posting because she's on vacation.
Let's call her. I'll pull her.
I don't need you to call. I need you to answer the question. So she
literally, it was about B. Taylor that I was talking about with regard
to asking you. What I'm specifically asking you.
Quest with it's people in the chat that was in the live stream. They will tell you that it's true.
No. I'm not saying that you told B. Taylor you on vacation. No, I'm saying did B. Taylor, because in your video, your word said, keep talking about how you're not posting because you're on vacation. So you're saying that you had a conversation with B. Taylor and she said, I'm not posting because I'm on vacation.
No, she didn't say I'm not posting because I'm on vacation.
Who were you talking about?
This video was not about you specifically.
Why are you not answering my question?
He didn't answer the question.
Who were you talking about when you said, keep talking about how you're not posting because you're on vacation? Who were you
B.
talking
Taylor
about?
Specifically.
But B. Taylor did not say that. What you said was very specific.
She didn't say those specific words. No, she didn't say those. Hold on. The fact of the matter is,
the first time that I collabed with you, and you brought me on your channel, and you were like, "Hey, sis, welcome. You dope. You super dope. I read your book." Then later on the stream, you were like, "Yeah." I mean, I didn't read your book, but like you're a smooth talker, Anton. I know how you move. Okay, you tried to convince me that you collab with Nathan because you hadn't saw the 7-hour live stream, but I knew you did. So I already see the way you move. I don't need to come to you and say, Anton, I just want to let you know that you're over here degrading Black women to defend Pearl. And I don't agree with it. So I'm not going to be your friend no more. I don't need to do that. I'm allowed to say, hey, I see the way he moving. I don't think it's healthy. I'm not rocking with it. I'm just going to fall back. The only reason why I brought your name up is because somebody super chatted and specifically asked. Other than that, people was walking around saying, damn, how come Six ain't talking about Anton? I had no desire to say nothing about you. So I don't know why you up here trying to check me like I owed you a phone call to tell you I don't fuck with you when I don't.
All right, that's cool. I just wanted to make sure that we was on the same page. I'm with that.
Same page.
All right, cool. Y'all have a good one.
Have a great life. You know what I'm saying? I ain't trying to hear that bullshit. All that nigga, I'm not trying to hear that. No, nobody got the answer. I see what you specifically said.
And I'm not gonna try to end it. I'm not trying to put myself in, but he didn't exactly say it wasn't about you either.
When I'm asking him, who were you talking about? He still ain't answered the question.
He was like specifically her, but it could apply to all of y'all. Pretty much. Hey.
Literally
outworks us all. Her Africans outworks us all.
What does this say, y'all?
Why haven't you been streaming? Oh, because I just got back in town. I spent the week with my dad in NC. I'm back on it.
Okay. I specifically told him that I was not because I was on vacation. I was on holiday. So he want to say it's not me. He was talking about, is it a coincidence? So I made a video saying, non-Black people need to stop speaking on Black people. And the next day you make that video. I mean, call it coincidence if you want to, but for me, it's not. So.
And probably does not outwork us.
She does not.
Her African does.
Whoa.
And that's why Pearly can't get into the Black space. That is why Pearly can't get in with Black women, because they guard their gates much better than we guard our gates. Cleared him the frick out.
Yeah, no, that I think first of all, I'm gonna do a little bit of simping. So I wouldn't be doing a whole lot of arguing with that woman. So especially not when she has a great point. Now, if she's wrong, I'm gonna call her out, but she's not wrong. Like, how? It's like, I don't understand. Like, we're supposed to be, and I think we miss that. Like, we're supposed to be protectors. Like, she wasn't protected, and he was like, "Oh, I wasn't talking about you. I was talking about her." But you're still talking about another woman. And like, if you use that case, why couldn't you just go to her behind the scenes or whomever it was, and just use the same knowledge, the same rhetoric, the same talking points? Like, hey, listen, I got a problem with the way you did this, or I don't think, this, that, and the third. But why you got to make a video about that? And why can't you see how you coming out when this person has said some very hurtful, harmful things, and you're talking about they're being outworked? She's a whole team of people that put up her content.
Yep.
So for me, when you have a machine behind you, no, she's not outworking anybody. She's a team of people. And what does that team of people look like? Us. And meanwhile, there's people on her own team that are coming out and talking about experiences that they've had. But again, we got other folks who shall remain nameless, right? That are still wanting to defend her. Like, why can't she defend herself? And that is a tactic. And I don't think that people understand that tactic. And that is also a part of oppression, where people hide behind, the oppressor will hide behind and use people from within the ranks to do their bidding, and they just sit back and watch. It's like, that part for me is that you can't see that, right? This woman has clearly made some mistakes / things that she said are coming to the surface, but you want to turn. She's talked about you and your people, but you still think you're different. And I think this is what happens, is this exceptionalism. And even Marcus Garvey talked about this, and this is the part that is a little problematic, right? It's the talented 10th. So take the exceptions of the Black people of color and let them rule. But all you're doing is mirroring the system of the oppressor. You're mirroring the system of colonialism against your own people. And that's also equally damaging. So when it's horrible when somebody from outside our community comes out and talks badly about us. But when people within the community come out and do it to their own community, it just denigrates us. It downgrades us even worse, because then you look at your own people are saying it. Your own people are agreeing with it. So we can just step back and watch the madness happen. I'm sorry. Yes, high vibe. W.E.B. Du Bois talked about the talented 10th. That is correct. Marcus Garvey he wanted us to be, he was a separationalist. But I just think, like, we just have to be careful. We have to know when to just step back and also apologize and just be like, yo, I messed up. And now look at this. Those two seem to have had a friendship, a relationship, but it's fallen apart over just Pearly, who probably hasn't been somebody that sat across from his kitchen. It's like you're willing to die on the hill to say you're right and lose a friend, versus apologize and acknowledge that you were wrong, or even think about the notion that you were wrong. It's like, come on. Nobody's perfect, like seriously. And if you got a blind spot, you got to talk about it and be honest, and then move on, because you just the blind spot's just going to keep coming. It's going to look different. So
yeah,
that whole, it's just been so disappointing,
bro. I think that's a key word, isn't it? It's been disappointing to see some of the people shirk like that. Do you know what I mean? And others who did support her have obviously changed now. So I think MTR he split himself from her as well. So you know, there are people who have actually said, this ain't it no more. You know, it ain't for me, you know. And yeah, so it's unfortunate because it's like, you know, you again, you're actually said you've put just Pearly above black women. And that's what I said. I don't trust their words, because how can it that you tell me that you guys do panels every week, and every week, exaggeration, every week, but a lot of times y'all be talking about holding women accountable, and then as soon as it gets to Just Pearl, it's just business, and it's like, no, it's not. You got to hold her accountable. So yeah, for me, it's just like, okay, I think some people are just thinking about money. You know, people are just literally thinking about money. They don't care about necessarily the community, you know. And I was like, I say the same thing I saw when I said about the 7 baby daddy situation. I did speak to, I was on Anton's panel when I spoke about it, and I was like, yo, if we're about community, how can you laud this guy? How can you even be excited about this guy? Do you know what I mean? How does that make our community better? Sometimes people think about money rather than actually think about the community. It's not that they're actually for the community. The community makes money, and therefore they are about the community. But it's the money first before the community. You know what I mean? So D6 had every right to say what she said. If that's how you're playing the game, that's what's gonna happen to you. And B Taylor actually put in the chat. She was actually in the comments after, and she said, quite frankly, yeah, I went on holiday. It wasn't me because I wasn't on holiday. So when he says it was definitely B Taylor, she says, I never told Anton I was on vacation, laughing my ass off. What the hell? Wow. So not only are you doing that, you're also lying. Yeah.
But you know what that is, right? It's like the notion of when someone is grasping at straws. You know, because if you admit you're wrong, then that means you're accountable. That's the true accountability, right?
Yeah.
Because when you admit you're wrong, then you have to do something different.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing with anybody, man or woman, that really blocks the accountability. Because if he admits he's wrong, then it means that everything that he said from that point is void. And it also means that he's got to move differently because now it's out there. So he's got to hold firm to everything that he said because it means he has to be different. And I think there is an element of fear in that. Now, I don't know all the nuances in the relationships, but I do know, listen, if you and I were disagreeing about something, I would expect that it wouldn't play out on YouTube, right? But if we had a fundamental disagreement, I would be hard pressed that I wouldn't be sitting back rethinking, okay, what is Kojo's point? And my hope would be vice versa. So it's like if somebody that was close enough to you to be sitting in your kitchen doesn't like something that you did, you double down. That for me is problematic because that's how we hold each other accountable. It's like if you lost a friend, you got to think about it. Now, yeah, do sometimes we need to lose friendships? Do sometimes we need to walk away from certain relationships? Oh, without a doubt. But to not, without a thought, without any type of recognizing of that, hey, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I'm not looking at this the right way. You know, and I think and it's just that hard reckoning that, you know, if I say I'm wrong, that I can't do X, X, and X. I gotta move in a very different way that's not what I've accustomed to doing. But that's how you grow. You get what I'm saying? If you think that just because you've reached a certain level of success, and I mean, I can never say anything, about his level of success that he's obtained. I think it's great, but that doesn't make you immune from mistakes. It doesn't make you the ultimate authority on all things. It means that you've been able to be successful, but you can still be wrong. People that are successful entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs, doing well in business, make mistakes too. But it's how you learn from that mistake and then do better. That's the best example. Not doubling down, holding on, not being willing to admit you're wrong. So that part. You got to look at your trend. How many people have you fallen out with?
Mm-hmm.
You go in tete-a-tete with a whole lot of women that at one time you respected. You gotta look in the mirror a little bit.
Well, I mean, I don't expect them to. Not when you won't rescind your own comments about putting a boot in somebody. So that's a woman. So are we expecting him to change? You know what I mean? This is a brother who said he will put a boot on a woman, and I challenged him, and he said, "Yeah, I would do it still." I mean, no sense, bro. You know what I mean? And that's the kind of stuff I said we have to root out. I don't care how much money he makes. That stuff we have to root out, man. That's the kind of stuff that needs to be out of here, because that kind of stuff doesn't help the community. And then we're forgetting that men are very loyal and very easy to follow. So men follow. So, whatever Anton doing, there's a bunch of men who follow his particular route of doing things without even challenging it. We saw the same thing with Kevin Samuels. So men are easily to follow. And if they got poor leadership, poor decisions and poor performance is going to come out of that as well. The fruits of their labor are going to show. So yeah, for me, it's just it's showing again that this is not protecting the black community at all by doing that. And I thought he was about the black community, but some of the behaviors, I'm like, bro, what's this about? Just because you employ black women don't mean you respect them. The same way that Just Pearly employs black folk, but don't respect him because clearly she couldn't. Even her apology wasn't an apology. She didn't apologize for saying what she said. She said, I want to be accountable. That's different. You know what I mean? So, yeah, but.
Yeah, and you know what? The funniest part, right? Because this happened before. And when people were calling out certain things that happened, and they were like, oh, this is not a black channel. That's not a black channel. And then they said the same thing with Just Pearly. Oh, it's not a black. Her channel is not black. Come on. Come on. We don't need to see the demographics of her channel to understand who the majority of people that are watching Pearly are.
Exactly. And it makes it worse if your audience is predominantly white, because you got predominantly, most of the time you have a black cast.
So now what are you conducting? A modern day minstrel show? Like, what is it? It's like it just doesn't make any sense. It's like, come on, what? So we're just going to keep doubling down, because that's when you throw out a fact that it's very difficult to disprove, or you try to throw a monkey wrench into the argument. Oh, it's not really. They're so good at showing the analytics and all this stuff. Show your demographics page. Show us your demographics page. And greater still, who is your content designed to attract? Who is your content desired to attract? Who is your content about? Then let's think about it, right? So I think it's very hard for you to pretend that your content is not desired to attract black people. Your content is not designed rather to attract and talk about people of color. You got to be kidding me. And Why wouldn't you? If that's not what you're doing, then what are you doing? You know. So look, don't pee on our leg and tell us it's raining, because that's bananas.
Absolutely, that one I can agree with, bro. That one I can agree with.
The analytics, come on, exactly. Like you know better. You know very, very much better. And if you're not, then why are you aligning yourself with Black creators? If her content is not designed to attract and bring in Black viewers, as well as talk about Black issues, why do you have so many Black people at the seat of your table? Why do you have so many Black people on your production staff? Why do you have so many Black prominent content creators that you've aligned yourself with? So then what do you want to do? You trying to talk about white people?
Let's see how that goes down.
With the one or two random ones, and then the white people that you associate yourself with are aligned with Black people. Like, so, it's like, what are you? Where are we going with this? Like, come on.
You ain't tell no lies, bro. You ain't tell no lies, bro. That's the reality of it, bro. This is she knows like what she's doing. She's running her business, and the problem is, you know, the problem is, you know, the problem with this situation is that, you know, they people don't learn, innit? Do you get what I'm saying? And like I said, if the people are not educated too, it's gonna be very hard to, you know, to stop people from taking advantage of them. That's the reality. People need to be educated, and that's why I said about that the Black men need to be educated. They need to be educated by the Black manosphere in all different things. So hopefully they do and get their stuff together, because I don't want to see another Just Pearl entering their space. But if they do, anyway. Yeah, I haven't even finished watching Fresh Prince, and this is the stuff that's. I was on episode 2.
Yo,
episode 3.
Like people, I think like at the end of the day, I hope this opens up some people's eyes, like to how dangerous this is, because I forget the other gentleman's name. Is it Sarar
Garvey?
Yeah, Sarar Garvey. You know, he pretty much explained the tactics that how she wanted to work with him, and that is colonialism. You know, or you know, just like it's we don't want to call it colonialism. We can call it just totally just taking advantage of someone and using them and giving them a raw deal. It's like you're going to do a 70-30 split with somebody in your favor, and you're doing the least amount of work.
Especially on their channel, isn't it?
Yeah.
Internet, I don't know the full details, but yeah, it sounds like it's on their channel. All she's providing is the studio, the engineers, and the thingy. But still, 70% is a lot.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I think those things are extremely, extremely dangerous, right? You know, we can do things. Everybody has free will to do what they want to do, but sometimes you got to look at you got to sit back and you got to look at, you know, am I seeing this clearly? Am I on the right side of things with this? And I think some folks that are still out here defending her need to just kind of take a step back and just look at the information, right? You know, I think MTR is an example. I'm not saying he's perfect and he's, you know, got everything all right, but I think at the very least he's seen enough to say, oh, okay, let me you know, I need to distance myself. And that's somebody that's just recently did collaborations with her, and she's been on his platform and vice versa. So
you're 100% right on that, bro. That one I definitely agree with. But yeah, TLA was also another one that was defending shirking the fence as well. Did a whole 4-hour live on it. I was just like, you know, some of y'all just be literally shirking on the fence with your community, boy, just shirk for money. And it's not even, I don't understand. It's almost as if, I don't know if you guys are a coalition or something. Is that why you're getting the money? Because it don't make no sense. We are not in the plantation field. Okay. So this shirking behind and apologies, defending that all the way through. It's like, I don't even get it. Y'all, like, unless you're getting some hard boy money, I actually don't get this. This is not the 80s and 90s trying to get a rap deal. This is literally technological age where you're getting money already. Like, TLA rakes money when he gets in. So I don't get it. Well, they all claim they rake money in, you know what I mean? And he did show some stats, so he does get money. So what is the obsession behind trying to defend just Pearly? It's just, it's nuts.
Because again, that means they have to make different choices.
That's true. Yeah.
It means that the next time somebody comes around, they're accountable to doing something different, and they don't want to do anything different. They want to keep doing what they're doing. They don't want to make a substantial change. It's hard to sit back when you've professed and put yourself on a pedestal, and then you've got all these people behind you that are saying, "Oh, you're right. Thousands and thousands of people that are agreeing with you and telling you you're right, DMing you, "Oh, you got the greatest points. You know, don't let them dissuade you." But no, they're wrong. You're wrong about this. You're wrong about the way everybody's handled this. Anybody that's sitting there defending her for the things that she said, and you think that you're better, that's insane. Because the same way she's talking about them, she's talking about us, all of us. I see. I think the brother that I met last week, he popped in the comments. He was on that live with you, the one you showed in the beginning. But yeah, anybody that cannot call this out, I would want to understand why. How they don't see this as wrong. How you see it that someone from outside of our community can come out and talk about us in a derogatory way, make fun of us in jest, how that's okay. And what does that say about us? And you think because you're different, you think because you do show up on time, the perception is not individualized. The stereotype is for a group. When people stereotype and denigrate and there's racism, it's not like, oh, but this exceptional group over here, they're the exception to the rule. That's also has inherent racism built in it. You get it? You're not getting a pass because you're better. You're not getting a pass because, that's like me trying to say, oh, because I've attained, a certain level of success, that means I get a pass on racism. I get a pass. No, it still impacts all of us. Somebody's talking about my brother, my sister that is of less than, they're talking about all of us.
You ain't telling no lies, sir.
So we do have to learn how to be better gatekeepers, better guarders, better protectors in that sense.
Sad to see, bro. Sad to see. But we gonna do better on this side of the internet. So
absolutely,
we definitely gonna see this side of the internet. So we're definitely gonna make sure we do our bit to bring good quality content, not just for women but for black men as well. You know what I mean? So we want to see them win. So we have to offer alternatives. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna offer these alternatives. Okay, alternatives. Well, we're gonna shirk and leave because we're gonna shirk and leave. Okay, all right. Et still says he can joke about anything. I told Et we can't joke about anything. You can't joke about Jews, so you cannot joke about anything. Me and Et had this discussion about this. I played a video about it. I was like, yo, we need to stop. I also think that's also part of our conditioning, that some people also believe we can joke about anything, and the reality is it's not. You can't joke about anything, in this lifetime. There are certain things that shouldn't be joked about and don't need to be joked about. And she showed us that those things as well. So, but we'll discuss that another time. I ain't got time for that. We'll discuss that another time. All right, listen, audience, appreciate you lot. Thank you for staying on an extra hour of us as well. I appreciate as well. We enjoy your presence, guys. Okay, all right, we enjoy your presence. All right, listen, much love and appreciation. We'll see you guys soon. Yeah, bye.